Now, the UK has a new ambassador to the Philippines. Mrs. Sarah Hulton has been appointed as the new UK envoy to the Philippines and non-resident ambassador to Palau, succeeding Ambassador Laura Bowfils. She's expected to take up her appointment in September. How will Philippine-UK relations flourish under her leadership? For that and an outside-looking-in perspective on some of the most pressing issues of the day, we have with us British Chamber of Commerce's Executive Chairman, Chris Nelson. Chris, good to see you. Hi.
Good morning from Portugal and good afternoon and welcome to everybody in the Philippines.
All right. It looks like it's sunny there. It's quite rainy here. But I want to start with the big news that we are getting a new ambassador from the UK, Mrs. Sarah Hulton. So what should we expect from the changing of the guard?
Well, I think a couple of points. First of all, I think you're going to see continuity as well. I'd like to just thank Laura Bowfils for doing an excellent 4 years. Next year will be the 8th year of diplomatic relations between the two countries. And I think Sarah Hulton will add a new dynamic way forward with that. I met Sarah in London and we discussed. She's very keen to obviously move forward on many areas, particularly in the area we work with the British Chamber in terms of promoting business. She looks forward to working closely with the Chamber, which Law did as well. And as we've seen, the UK has been a strong investor in the Philippines. And most recently, we've seen obviously a lot of activity in renewable energy and other sectors. So I think Sarah is going to come and do another excellent job and build upon the work and further extend the growing cooperation and trade and investment relationship between our two countries.
Chris, just very curious, are we expecting any pivot or shifts in focus? I mean, what is Sarah passionate about?
Oh, I think as all ambassadors, they will cover a range. I think Sarah is very clear, as was Laura, to be very fair, that she wants to work closely with the Chamber, working with us in terms of promoting key objectives, key legislation we want to see passed forward. But I think also, as we've seen, and also working with our relatively new deputy ambassador or deputy head of mission, which is Mike Welsh. He was one of our recent speakers. I think you'll see the UK being very active in areas such as renewable energy, such as infrastructure. And let's not forget, we just recently had the PESA investment mission, and that's another strong signal that the UK and the Philippines is working and increasing its relationship in terms of investment and trade.
Chris, you mentioned infrastructure, so I have to ask you, as a foreign investor who's watching Manila very closely, your companies under the umbrella BCCP also doing business here. What do you make of the current corruption crackdown? Right now, the focus is on anomalous flood control projects, but it could go beyond that. So what do you make of that? Does it shock you still? How do you feel?
Look, I think it's always disturbing to read the potential. Obviously, I'm reading the reports as everybody else. I just thought I'd also point out the president was very clear. He highlighted in his sonar speech about the potential impact these flood projects have on those communities that suffer. So we fully understand and support the president looking into this seriously. And I think overall what we're trying to do here is build a clear environment for companies to invest. That's why I'd just like to stress that the British Chamber is an ARTA champion. I mean, that's red tape and not specific to these flood projects, but that's also a very important element. And we just like to urge the government to sign the e-Governance Act. I think that will be a great help in also improving speed of process and removing potential corruption. Again, we understand, and it is a concern, what we're looking to do, and along with the government, is further enhance the environment, particularly with SMEs and MSMEs that we work with, to actually get more investment and business in the Philippines. So fully understand the concern, and we look to see how it develops.
You mentioned the e-Governance Act. Are there other legislative priorities that your companies are actually pushing for?
Yeah, so we've been a strong supporter of e-governance. We're very strong supporters of the Cybersecurity Act. I think this is extremely important. This has been highlighted, and we'd like to see it pass. The UK has experience in cybersecurity. Two of our members, CyberQ and NCC, are leading members in those areas. And we think it will strengthen the Philippine economy and support companies. The other act we'd like to see is the Open Transmission Act, which is the Konontenok Pinoy Act. We know that's under review. I think it could potentially lapse into law. But again, this will support the digital economy, which again all links together. We want to see the Philippines moving forward. We want to see a much more integrated, and to do that, you have to have connectivity. And while there have been concerns raised by the obviously existing companies, I think there's a suggestion that could be handled within the IRR, but we think the act itself is important to move forward.
All right, so let's now bring the conversation back on the ground, closer to the gut. I want to talk about inflation. I'm sure you've heard of the great news. Our inflation eased to near 6-year lows in July, 0.9%. I know that the UK is on a different boat because you guys, prices in the UK rose by about 3.8% in the year to July, driven mainly by a jump in the prices of airfares and food, which means your inflation is at its highest level since January 2024 and still far above the Bank of England's target of 2%. So inflation very much connected to the food supply chain. Why don't you talk to us about efforts for both sides to address food security issues?
Sure. So let me just talk about the UK first. And obviously, you're correct to highlight it. And I think the number was obviously clearly disappointing. It has an impact, of course, on interest rates in the UK. The UK is specifically got to look into how it can handle its food supply, plus also airfares. Airfares, of course, are driven by multiple factors. I assume also, of course, the price of aviation fuel. So the UK, that will obviously have some impact for the Bank of England, which just recently reduced interest rates. If I come back to specifically to the Philippines, and I have to give my full congratulations to the Department of Finance for their efforts, along with other departments, including the Department of Agriculture that we work with, and that is to bring down inflation, which is obviously driven particularly by reducing food prices, down to 0.9. This gives, as you highlighted in one of your earlier reports, Bangko Sentral in the Philippines, opportunity to reduce rates further, which will be a stimulus for growth. And in that context, we've played our own, maybe small role in terms of food supply from the UK, which of course is through pork and beef. And that continues to move forward. And I'm pleased to say that we'll have another mission from the Agricultural Horticultural Development Board, and that's going to take place in November of this year. Again, reinforcing that the Philippines is a very important market, second largest in Asia, and will continue to develop long-term relations with key importers and for the best, but for both countries. So overall, congratulations to the Philippines. And I guess for the UK, we hope to see an improvement, but it will obviously hinder potentially the Bank of England moving forward.
So given all of these challenges that you mentioned and the optimism, are you hopeful or optimistic that overall trade between the UK and the Philippines this year will grow, will be in the positive?
Oh, I think very much so. We're already at highs, 3 billion. We've recently had our mid-year event. We're very pleased that we had Undersecretary Alan Gepti there. He highlighted a number of key areas, one being that we have, of course, JETCO, and we've seen the first meeting out in March. They've established, I think, 4 committees to focus on certain key areas, one of them being renewable energy. He also highlighted that the Philippines is looking to join another trading bloc, which is CPTPP, which is the Trans-Pacific, for which the UK is a member. Now, of course, they're only in the initial stages of applying, but of course that will be very significant and it will allow greater access. The other thing I want to highlight is the fact that the Philippines is benefiting from the developing countries tariff scheme, which I think allows only about 90% of products to go to the UK without paying a tariff. And this is important for things like tuna, fish, and tropical fruit. So I think trade and investment will continue to grow, and that's going to be great news because next year, as I said, it's our 80th year of diplomatic relations to these two countries, and I'm sure we'll be able to welcome that and highlight that in many ways.
You know, the U.S. is not part of the CPTPP, but great news for the UK. You guys got one of the lowest reciprocal tariff rates, 10%, right?
Correct. I mean, like, I
what
think...
a way to negotiate.
Well, I think I like to say, first of all, I think it's difficult for everybody to try and negotiate. I mean, we know that U.S. tariffs are moving. It changes, from what I can read in the media, on a fairly frequent basis. And I think, yes, well done to our own UK for negotiating that. But I think in the case of people like the Philippines, who are obviously also trying their hardest to negotiate, I think moves to join things like CPTPP, to continue to develop its trade with the UK and with Europe, is a way to obviously go forward. Because I think overall what tariffs has done, and I think we've discussed this previously, is it's created uncertainty. And uncertainty for business and planning is extremely difficult. So, yes, good for the UK, and we welcome the Philippines joining CPTP and developing its trade and investment in that bloc. And let's not forget it's also a member of RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is a great asset for companies when they come to invest in the Philippines.
Chris, is there a timeline that you're looking at, a realistic one, for when the Philippines officially becomes part of CPTPP?
Well, based on my discussions, I mean, we're in very close contact with Department of Trade and Industry, with Alan Gepti, and we welcome the work that Secretary Roque is doing. I think it's fair to say you've got to look at about a 15 months to 18 months timeline. I mean, that's just the process. I'm sure they filed the application. The UK, I think, took about 14 months approximately. So hopefully within about 18 months, the Philippines will be a member.
All right. And final question, Chris. We talked about this a lot in the previous sessions. There was an exciting PEZA UK roadshow in the last few months. Any exciting names that have emerged or floated around to open shop or put their money here in the Philippines? New names, maybe?
Well, let me just talk specifically about one event yesterday, which was an MOU signing between AstraZeneca, one of our members, which is a British-Swedish company, represented by the country head Lotus Ramen. And they've just signed an MOU to invest $7 billion over 3 years. So congratulations to Director General Panga for that. I'd just like to highlight that the UK is the fourth largest investor into PEZA. And during our trip to the UK, which is very successful, we've got leads, PEZA's got leads on renewable energy, electronics, IT, agriculture. And I think that's going to move forward. I can't give you the specific names. I mean, AstraZeneca, of course, we've just highlighted. But I think what you're showing here is that the PEZA investment forum showed the opportunities to invest in the Philippines, why you should also look at potentially PEZA for that. And I think those leads will materialize. And again, congratulations to AstraZeneca on looking to establish, I think, a health hub here and for their investment over the next 3 years.
All right. Chris, thank you for delivering that good news for the Philippines. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Hopefully, the next time we have you, which is next month, there's another name that you could share, huh?
Sure. We'll look forward to that. And thank you again for the invite. I wish everybody a happy public holiday today. And it's great to see you, Mimi. Thank you very much to you and all your viewers.
See you soon.